All right, these are some of my favorite days. We've got the truck pulled up to the garage, and today's project is the brand new, or relatively new, Z-Flash Flasher from UltraBrightLightz. This is the BCM version, so it'll plug in over here to the BCM underneath the passenger footwell. And I've got the old version of the Z-Flash installed, and I've been running it for years. Today I'm going to remove the old one, install this one. The main difference being that this one flashes the headlights as well. So what I'll do is at the end of the video, I'll show you the flash patterns between the two. But for now, up next, let's get the old one removed. Let's turn off the Z-Flash. What do you have there?
Beer. I figured it's time to switch from coffee to beer.
Coffee to beer time. I like it. Thanks, babe. Ooh, while I'm in the truck, I want to show you guys the new passenger side version of the mic mount from Legbar. So you can hang two microphones, one for a GMRS radio, one for a ham radio, or maybe one for something else. But I'm pretty excited about that. It's compatible with 2022 Super Duty dash mounts, so if you want one, go get one. All right, so step one of the removal of the old unit is to disconnect the battery. What I do is I use two little towels and I put them under the negative terminals once I lift them up to keep it from connecting again. I got these pouches on Amazon, little canvas pouches. Love them for storing my wrenches. I'm also really liking these Odyssey batteries. They seem to run everything really well. The truck starts up nice and strong every time. And I've also noticed that they seem to run, like when my air compressor comes on and the truck's not running. I don't do that intentionally necessarily, but when it's happened, these batteries seem to run the compressor just fine without the truck running. Both negative terminals on the batteries are disconnected now. I like to do that just to make sure there's no power to the truck while I'm messing with the BCM or really any electrical connections. Like I said, this is the Z-Flash BCM with Headlight Flasher for Fords. I have a 2022 F350. No cutting wires, no drilling holes, plug and play, 2-year warranty. It's mostly plug and play. I'm going to connect it to an upfitter switch, so I will have to make one electrical connection there. But other than that, it's plug and play. It's pretty simple. But here's a photo of the BCM and the J7 and J3 connections that we'll be utilizing to plug this in. Big thanks to UltraBrightLightz for sending this to me. My previous video of the previous generation Z-Flash has had a lot of views, and so I asked them if they wanted me to make another video for this new version. They said yes, so they sent it to me. So I appreciate them providing this. Adds content for the channel and gives me a fun project for a Saturday to share with you guys. This is the Z-Flash module. Here's a switch, so you could use this to turn it on and off in a completely plug-and-play flat fashion if you did not want to use the upfitter switches. And then here is the wiring harness for the Z-Flash. So basically those two connections on the BCM that we talked about, these two sides will go into the BCM, and then the plugs that would normally be in your BCM from the factory will attach to this side of this pigtail. So that's just a bridge in the middle. And then this side of the harness plugs into the Z-Flash like so. And then this piece over here, I do think we'll still use it to plug in here, but we'll attach one of these wires to the upfitter switch instead of using this built-in switch. We've got the plug that goes into the Z-Flash, and then we've got a handful of wires here. This blue one says input 12-volt trigger, so presumably this is what I would attach to the upfitter wire to turn this on or off using the upfitter. Here's an output left green wire, output right orange wire. This green and orange can be used if you want to trigger some relays for maybe some other lights or something else you have installed. Obviously these are tiny and don't supply power to anything. They're just used to trigger relays. We've got a black ground. We have a yellow output. I wonder if it's just on all the time, meaning like when the Z-Flash is on, this is a constant output versus the left and right outputs that might wig-wag in a certain way. An input 12-volt trigger that's looks like purple. So we have an input 12 volt trigger that's blue and an input 12 volt trigger that's purple. So this is labeled, the blue is just labeled input and the purple is labeled input 2. So we might have to look at the instructions to see which input to use or what the difference is between those two. Let's find out. Input 1 is to activate lights. Input 2, purple, is plow mode. I assume I will not be using plow mode, so I probably will use the blue wire to connect to the upfitter, the black to ground, and that is all I expect to use. Let's look at this note down here. So it says plow mode, when active, input 2 disables high and low beam flashing and slows the pattern down so that the relay box plow mode can keep up with the flashing to prevent overheating. This should be enabled whenever a plow is connected. Note, this input must see positive 12 volts before activating the Z-Flash for proper functionality. Let's go removing the existing Z-Flash. All right, let me show you the old setup here. It was beautiful. And even with all these big plugs, my fuse panel cover, basically, it almost closed all the way, but enough that I never thought about it. And then the wires from this go up over this felt panel where the Z-Flash module is just laying in this felt panel under the glove box just to give it somewhere to sit where it's out of the way. All right, so up next, we have to unplug the old Z-Flash and push in on the black, move the white part over. It kind of comes out on its own, just like that. So push in on the little black tab, the white one flips forward, kind of push it like that. When you push it forward, it kind of wants to come out. So kind of pull and push, like pull on the black part out while you push on the white part down. These plugs are a little tight. They're a little difficult to remove. I'm going to remove this felt to give me a little more space. All right, so I use one of these little doohickeys to remove the clips on this felt panel. So I removed the two clips here and one on the other side. And then when I drop this down, you can see the original Z-Flash in there. It's a lot of wires. And you can see this red wire is the trigger wire for the original Z-Flash. And I have it connected to a pass-through wire, orange and white, which is then going to my upfitter number 6 on the other side of the firewire, other side of the firewall. I'm thinking what I might do is leave this connection, cut this down here somewhere, and put a terminal on it that I can use to connect to a terminal on the trigger wire for the new Z-Flash. That way I just leave that connection. It's just hard to get up there because that's so tight. Once you do it once, you want to leave it that way. All right, so looking back under here again, I've got one of the plugs tucked up high back here. So I'm going to pull it down. So I'm going to push here to release the gray. Once I've released it, that comes apart. So now I've disconnected both of the Ford plugs from the Z-Flash harness. Now I've got to disconnect the Z-Flash harness from the BCM. I told you I've already pushed on the black to remove or to release the white clip. The white clip should slide over while this comes out. All right, so the trick is when you pull this white part over, there's a little black piece right here. So pull the white tab down and the black tab together and kind of pinch them and lift it up. All right, so last plug here is to get this disconnected from the BCM. I'm just going to use the pry tool to push the little black tab and pull the white tab. There we go. Easy peasy. So it looks like there's still a third connection up here. I forgot the original Z-Flash was 3 connections. Let me disconnect the harness. Disconnect it from the BCM. There we go. All right, now the harness is completely disconnected except for the upfitter. Okay, I do have to give this to him. The old Z-Flash versus the new one. The bundle of wires on the old one definitely looks more complicated than this. This one only has 2 pigtails. Now, granted, I'm not holding the Z-Flash unit, but it'll be similar in size to that. But the wires seem like they've been streamlined a bit, which might make it harder to tuck everything away. I'm not sure. We'll find out. But just looking at it, it looks simpler, which I do like that. So we're using plugs J3 and J7. So this big one is J3. J7 is the like mid-size plug. So this really tiny one is not used on the new Z-Flash. Just when you think you've got a good plan for the day, then it gets stormy. We just heard some thunder, so of course all the windows are rolled down and the batteries are disconnected and the BCM's disconnected. So would have to throw a tarp over the truck right now if it started to rain. Yeah?
Look how clean my shoes came out.
How clean?
I washed them in the washing machine and now they're like brand new.
Those are shiny.
Aren't they nice?
Yeah.
They were so muddy from helping Luke and CJ move.
We might have to wash my shoes. Wow, those are like...
They're like stark white.
Were they always curved like that?
No, I took the insoles out, but I'm about to dry them.
I see. On the shoe dryer?
Mm-hmm.
They look nice.
Do you want me to wash some of your shoes?
No. The last time I washed my shoes, they squeaked, and every time I walked after that, it would be squeak, 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 squeak.
Okay.
The truck is as it was at the factory. And I'd like to point out now, this blue connector here and the one right next to it were used on the old Z-Flash. They're no longer used. This big one here and the one up here on the top right are the 2 that are used in the new Z-Flash. These will be the 2 that I remove and connect to the new Z-Flash. Of course, now I'm right in the sun, but let's get the camera set up here so you can see what I'm doing and get these connected. All right, this is the wire that goes to my upfitter. In the name of science, here we go. Give it a tug, make sure it's good. All right, so now this, I'll wrap these with electrical tape once I'm done, but for now, we have a way to plug the upfitter into the Z-Flash. To put this in, make sure that the white part is all the way down, because when you snap it in, it'll come back and lock into the top. All right, I got the Z-Flash module. I plugged in the switch to it. Now I'm going to plug in the wiring harness to the module right here. So I'll show you what we got. At this point, everything connected from the pigtails, obviously not tucked away. We have the Z-Flash module connected to the pigtails, and I plugged in the switch to the module. So the switch is up here. So it's possible that the switch will turn the lights on, but I don't think so, because I think we have to have accessory power onto the truck. We also don't have any batteries connected, so let's reconnect the batteries. We have power because we have lights on. Ignition's not on because the Raptor running lights are not on. We're going to connect the upfitter wire to the blue trigger wire from the Z-Flash. That way I can see if it comes on when I turn on the upfitter switch. All right, those are connected now. It says that we need the accessory on for the vehicle for this to work, which is a bummer compared to the old model because the old model worked just with 12 volts sent to it from the upfitter, which is always hot. But let's see what happens. All right, accessory off, the lights stop flashing, but the upfitter's still on. So that is a change from the previous model. So I guess that's not a big deal breaker. It just means your truck has to be in accessory mode. I don't love that because I like to be able to flip these on and not have the truck in accessory mode, because sometimes that means that the fans are blowing or AC, things like that. So I prefer the old model behavior there, but it's okay. It's not a deal breaker. Just know your truck has to have accessory on, and then when you press the upfitter switch, your lights will flash. We have a blue light down here which indicates flash pattern 1. There's 3 flash patterns. So if we push the included button, now we'll be on flash pattern 2, which is the green. Since the Z-Flash only works with the truck in accessory mode, that means that it no longer matters if I have a hot always upfitter switch, because all the upfitters are hot when the truck ignition is on, so you could use any of them you wanted now to power it. The downside is that if you don't have your key with you, you can't turn on the lights. And there's definitely been cases before, maybe we're out at the beach or something, and my key's back at the house, and I wanted to flip on the lights. I can't do that if I don't have a key. So this is just something to consider. If you're looking at purchasing either the old model or the new model, there's trade-offs. If you want to be able to turn on your Z-Flash flasher without the truck key or the ignition in the on position, you need to buy the old model. If you want your roof clearance lights and your headlamps to flash, and in my case, my rear center brake light on the bed, the one that I added for the dually light, those all flash with the new module. So if that's important, you get the new module. I think this is just good information for you to have as you make your purchase.
This is 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. This is 5. This is 6. This is 7. This is 8. This is 9.
Here is Z-Flash pattern 1.
Pattern 2. Pattern 3. Pattern 4. Pattern 5. Pattern 6. Pattern 7. Pattern 8. Pattern 9.
Okay, now what we're showing is the Z-Flash with the M-Power lights up around the third brake light. I also have some color fled minis on the bottom of the bumper mounted on Legmar bumper brackets, and those lights are from UltraBrightLightz. So between those and the M-Power lights up top, combined with the Z-Flash, this is what the rear of the vehicle looks like. Notice the Z-Flash also flashes the dually brake light, the dual rear wheel brake light above the license plate. It's hard to see in this video, but the lights in the bumper that shine on the license plate also flash with the Z-Flash.